is AJ&VG Gopalan, and today we're going to narrate a story. In ancient days, we have somebody, a very peculiar character called Garuda, the Vahana of Lord Vishnu. Garuda, in order to save his mother from the slavery from the Nagas, he flew into the Swargalok, battles with all the Devatas and Indra, who is the king of the Swargalok, defeats them, brings the elixir down to the Nagas in order to provide moksha to his mother from the slavery of the Nagas. From this ancient mythological story, we today have a fantastic author who's weaved this particular instance of Garuda, taken it, created a fictional island kingdom owned by the king Vikram and his sister Princess Indumati and different other characters, weaved it beautifully into a CIA related fictional story. It could be a treasure hunt, adventure, geopolitical scenarios coming into this. Probably somebody whom we can foresee as the Indiana Jones of India, or the Dan Brown of India, or the Amish Tripathi, an upcoming author we have. Please join me in welcoming Srinivasan Gopalan with us today, who is with, and we're going to discuss his book, Fab Four, The Legend of Garuda. That's his first book. And his second book, The Legend of Garuda, The Lost Elixir. And we're going to expect more books coming in from him moving forward. Srini, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ajish. Thank you for having me on the show.
So Srini, you're an engineer by qualification and probably an investment banker by profession. How did you arrive at the fact or a conclusion that you want to be a writer?
Yeah, so good question, Ajish. So during one of my conversations with a publisher, I was told that there's always a storyteller inside all of us, but there is, you have this sort of a trigger, an event that happens in your life, which then makes you get into a particular line of work. So the same thing happened with me. I was on a holiday overseas, and that's when the idea behind some of these characters in the Takshaya series came to me. And then so I decided, why not let's turn it into a book.
Interesting. So before we get into Takshaya, when I read the book, it's opening with 3 or 4 explorers meeting in Spain, where people like Christopher Columbus and Vasco da Gama are in a rendezvous, and that's where the prologue starts, right? And very particularly, one year that I recall from the book is 1988, probably towards the end of Russian Revolution or towards the decline of USSR, in the Gorbachev's era, right? Is there any specific reason that you bring that kind of an year into this particular book?
Yeah, so again, very good question, and no, it was deliberate why I brought in that year into this particular book. Now, this series has 2 parallel stories that are going on, and you mentioned both of them right now. The first one is about 500 years old, which starts with Vasco da Gama meeting Christopher Columbus, and there is a young explorer who's there with one of them. You should read the book for that. And that comes from the Takshaya dynasty. One of the last kings of the Takshaya dynasty is King Vikram. So King Vikram is very central to this particular Takshaya series. Now, the second thing is a story which is set in modern times, but more specifically in the late 1980s, because that was the peak of the Cold War period. So, a lot of geopolitics. So, we've got a couple of premier spy agencies who are after something of King Vikram's Takshaya dynasty. And so, they get themselves embroiled in that particular conflict. And so, that story is set in the late 1980s. And that's the genesis of the entire Takshaya series as far as the modern story is concerned.
Let me come to Takshaya, right? Probably a synonym for Garuda himself, right? How did you go about weaving this whole CIA adventure fiction treasure hunt with the ancient mythology of Garuda? What provoked you to link Garuda to the book?
Okay, so Garuda is in many cultures, not just the Indian cultures, it's considered a symbol of hope, victory, courage, and this is something that many of us probably know. But also what you mentioned about Garuda's act of defeating the devas and getting the elixir of immortality, he had to do that to basically save his mother, and so he does that. I mean, he first of all defeats the devas, and then he tricks the nagas into freeing his mother without giving them the elixir of immortality. But what is also important to note is that he had that elixir with him. He could have drunk it himself. He didn't do that. So that shows an act of selflessness. So it's not just a symbol of victory, hope, or courage, but it also shows that Garuda also has this act of selflessness in him. And so that probably was the inspiration for me to weave this entire series around Garuda.
Very, very good point, right? I think Srini, many Indians still don't know how Garuda became the Vahan of Lord Vishnu, and he was probably, Lord Vishnu blesses him because of his selflessness. He didn't bring the elixir, while there were a lot of asuras waiting in queue to bring that. Are you also in search of an elixir in some way or the other?
I hope not.
I hope not. Okay. So in your first book, it's named Fab Four. Who are these Fab Four that you're mentioning in the book?
Yeah. So Fab Four, as the name says, the story is about four central characters. So we've got Mike, we've got Maria, Rohan, and Tanya. Now all of them come from completely different backgrounds. So Mike is born and raised in the US. He's going to start his career in medicine. He's a highly qualified surgeon, and so on the face of it, everything looks very fine for him. But we are introduced to him very early on in the series, where it said that he's actually an orphan. He's brought up by his grandmother. So he wants to find out about his parents, what happened of his parents, and so that's where the CIA angle comes into play. Then we've got Maria. Maria is probably the most complex of the four, right? A very layered and complex individual. She's an actress based in Spain, but there is again the question of parentage. Who are her parents who brought her up? And what happens to Maria is probably one of the central tenets of this entire series, especially in books 1 and 2. And why she chose a particular path and why she went along that particular path is one of the central themes of books 1 and 2. Then we've got Rohan. Now, Rohan, I would say, is probably the brains of the group. But I would also say he's a rebel, also very emotional at heart. Right? You will see a lot of flashbacks as far as Rohan is concerned. He's comes from a business family, but he doesn't want to join his family business. So he has a heartfelt, heart-to-heart conversation with his father, saying that, look, I'm not interested in doing this. I have something else in mind. I want to be a detective. So he's like inspired by Byomkesh Bakshi. And so he gets his father's permission to leave home and then moves from Calcutta to Bombay and decides to set up his own detective agency. He gets embroiled in this Takshaya mystery. And then finally we've got Tanya. Tanya I'm very proud of because I think she has matured a lot over the 2 books. I'd probably say she's the most graceful, mature and easygoing of the 4 individuals in this particular group. She's basically the descendant of the Garuda dynasty. But she takes it on in a very calm manner. And so she's the one who tries to, make sure that things don't get out of control. And you see that happening throughout both the books, but especially in the second book.
Alright. So among these 4 characters, and probably we can add Princess Hindu-Buddhist also in it. We obviously don't want villains to come for the podcast, but out of these 5, if somebody walks into this room, whom would you really want to be a podcast guest with you?
So that's a good question, Ajish. Who would I want to have as a guest on the podcast if all these 4 characters appeared in front of me? Tough to say, but I'd probably go with Rohan. Because Rohan has these sort of emotional outbursts during both the books, and others have to come and control him. So he's a very dynamic sort of guy. I mean,
very restless.
Very restless. But at the same time, he's the one who's able to solve all the complex puzzles at the same time. This probably comes from the fact in his childhood, as you can see in the book if you read it, he was not interested in academics. He just to satisfy his family, he passed the CA exam, but he wanted to do something else on his own. So he is a team player, but he is also very individualistic. So I would say he's dynamic and not the sort of regular sort of individual that you would meet in your life.
But from now, I would call Rohan as from a Bali Gunj Bengali to from being a CEO of a movie production company. He's got two sisters managing it. His father is a pretty rich businessman to Bollywood in Bombay. He moves into Bombay to become a wannabe Bomkesh Bakshi or a private detective. But to me, when I read, I haven't gone through your second book in full, but the first book and the second book, if I've gone through whatever, I feel more resonated with Michael Adams, who's got a lot more emotionally connected or going on because he's searching for his missing father. And what I understood is that even in the second book, he doesn't meet him. So is he really alive? And do we expect in the third book that you're going to come up with, do we expect Michael Adams meeting his dad, Mr. Adams itself?
For that, you're going to have to read the third book.
Third book.
Yeah, so read the second book completely, and then also please, when the third book comes out,
from the first book to second book, I think the readers waited 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years approximately. When do we expect your third book coming out?
It's going to come out much sooner.
There's
not going to be a big lag.
The writer in Srini has really woken up.
Yes.
So to say.
Yes, along with the characters who are present in the series, they are the ones who actually basically guide you in a series, right?
But when I read some part of the book, Maria, who also has got involved in this because of her father. But that's one character that is also a hero, but at the same time you have antagonized her in some or the other way by the end of the first book. Is there any peculiar, specific reason why you created that character as a positive with a certain negative? Will the readers see more light onto that character in the third book?
So yeah, Maria is also one of the central characters in this particular series. Why is she more complex? Why is she more layered? And she's got the Jekyll and Hyde tendencies. That probably is a function of her upbringing and what she was as a child, who her parents were, and you will see in the book who her father basically is. And so she's kind of like forced into a lot of situations which she doesn't want to be in. She doesn't have a choice. Rohan had a choice, right? He just decided to walk away. He's the rebel. But Maria doesn't have a choice. So she has to do something that she's being told to do. And so, she's struggling within herself to figure out what is it that she actually should be doing. And so I think meeting Mike, Rohan and Tanya, I think changes.
So there's an internal fight or conflict in her mind between what she really wants to do and what she's been asked to do.
Yes.
And she's going through the situation is what you're
correct. So she has an internal conflict within herself which she's trying to do. So as far as Maria is concerned, and also Mike to an extent, they are kind of like in a situation where they're trying to find out about their parentage. Whereas as far as Tanya and Rohan are concerned, they're doing something which is out of their own volition.
Understood. So, in one portion, Rinpoche tells Tanya that you're brave and pure of heart, right? And Tanya also being from the lineage of the Kshiya. But however, while readers are expecting Tanya to become a Garuda, we see something completely. I'm not going to break it up for the readers. I'll let the readers go and pick up the book and read it. But something completely different happens here. Is there any purpose behind your thinking there?
Yeah. So, as Shen Rinpoche tells his audience, and I'm not going to reveal it for everyone who that audience is, but he says that he tells one of the characters that you're pure and you're a brave heart, you have a pure soul. But the elixir is going to choose someone who has contradictions within himself or herself. So that individual is bold and ambitious, but also has some qualities such as being cunning, resourceful, and highly ambitious and individualistic. And so you can figure out what I'm trying to say there. So the elixir is going to choose someone with contradictions because it wants to make sure that at the end of the day it solves the problem. Or it solves the purpose, or we are able to figure out that the elixir has achieved its purpose. And so you can see in both the books we talk about the elixir, but it also says that the elixir will only come when it is required.
See, elixir is a very, very interesting part of this book, right? But it's been the reason for conflict probably 10,000 years back itself. Now, I think one of the reasons, are you trying to become a writer so that you become immortal in the minds of the readers? Is that a kind of elixir that you believe in, or is there a real magic potion that we can all drink and become immortal? What's your take on that?
Look, we've been playing all these video games from childhood. We saw like the Prince of Persia and all, you drink some potion and then you become immortal. But one thing that I believe is that life is a journey, not a destination. So if you think that you drink some sort of a magic potion and then you're going to become immortal and that's the end of that, I don't think that actually happens in real life. But you do, come across specific objects or such as the elixir, which is probably going to solve a specific purpose. So you have the good and the bad, and you also have certain things like the elixir, which is probably trying to solve the purpose of what the good and bad are conflicting over. So that's when something like that will come into play.
There's a beautiful story about how Alexander the Great visited India in search of the elixir. And on his way back home, he gets killed by poison, right? So There's a beautiful story around that, maybe some other time for the viewers out here. But from Prince of Persia, let's dive into the Princess of Takshya, which is Princess Hindu-Buddhist, who also happens to be the elder sister of King Vikram. Now, she's a very interesting character. Indians, or the ancient Indians, were not explorers. While we read about Columbus and Vasco da Gama and Antony's and of the world, we haven't seen a central character from India who is a wannabe explorer, right? Now here, Princess Indumati is a very outgoing character. She loves to travel around. Where is that peculiar characteristics of that particular character? Where did you pick that character from?
So I won't say Indumati is inspired from a specific character. It's probably inspired from a series of different characters that I might have come across. But it is mentioned at the start of the second book, The Legend of Garuda, Lost Elixir, that Indumati is like a child prodigy. She's the elder sister of King Vikram. And so when her father was away, she took charge of the kingdom just at the age of 30. So she has been like, it's known that she's like a strategist, and also she's like a skilled warrior. So she's obviously very well equipped and a highly skilled and courageous individual. But as might be the case, like the story set 500 years back, she probably hasn't traveled and she just lived in her homeland throughout her life. And so it's that that wanderlust sense of feeling in her that makes her take this sort of journey. And because she's highly skilled and courageous, she doesn't fear the outcome, right? And so we have seen that when you don't fear the outcome, typically things fall into place. And that's what Indumati went with. But an important point is, although that's the belief that she had, we really don't know that whether if that's what happened of her. If the belief that if I'm not worried about the outcome, things will fall into place. But we're not sure if things fell into place for Princess Indumati.
Are you indicating or redirecting the readers to believe karma karo or karma ka phal ka pratiksha mat karo, that the core message of Gita, right? And there's another message that you're trying to give out there: fear is the biggest enemy of a human being. Are you pointing readers in that direction when you portray this particular character?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, Amish or Ashwin, which one of them is your favorite author? Probably in this, I think your genre is slightly more different, but who is your favorite among these two?
I think both have contributed a lot to the Indian fiction in this particular space. And I've enjoyed reading their books. I probably relate more to Ashwin Sanghi's books.
All right. Okay. Oh, 10 years from today, Srinivasan Gopalan, where do we see you?
Well, I hope to continue to build on the Takshaya series here, and I think it's a very very interesting sort of series, which is kind of like a fusion of mythology, adventure, and mystery. and a number of different characters who get themselves embroiled in a set of unexpected events, and how they pick themselves up from those events. That's what forms the crux. So I hope to grow as far as the Garuda series.
How many more do we expect from you, Srini?
As far as the Garuda series is concerned, I think we'll definitely have 2 more books coming out. Hopefully, in the not so distant future, but potentially a 5th book as well in this particular installment.
What? So, Srini, I think we missed one very central character from the book, the heroine, Tanya, who's also from the royal family. But what I realized is, being a girl, she still has to follow the wishes of her parents. On one side, she's been forced to get married. On the other side, she's been pushed towards doing civil services examination. Why did you narrate this particular woman character in a very typical ancient Indian traditional way? While the Indian woman has moved on, we've got Indra movies of the world who's leading organizations. So, what was specifically the reason why Tanya was framed that way?
Yeah. So Tanya's story is very unique because she's a descendant of the Tarksha dynasty from her mother's side. At the same time, her father is an IPS officer, a very senior civil servant in the country. And so, as might be the case with many of the kids who come from a specific sort of a family background, there is going to be a pressure on both vocation, choosing a specific profession. At the same time, the parents want the kids to get settled, right? So, in this case, her mother sends profiles of boys and says that, I think you should think about getting married. So, she comes from a slightly traditional sort of household. At the same time, her mother realizes that she might do a good job and make a great career in the civil service. She tells her that if you're not interested in marriage right now, why are you not even preparing for civil services? But then Tanya's mind has changed because of the events that have happened. So they've got their ancestral home in Coorg, in Karnataka, and there are some mysterious events that happen there and that make her and her cousin, who the 2 of them are the last descendants of the Tarksha dynasty, Ved and Tanya, they figure out that that this legend of Garuda is very, very true according to them. So they want to investigate that even more. So when you want to find out something about yourself or your ancestors, that probably takes even bigger precedence than what you plan to do ahead in life. But
from there, Srini, if you were to describe 2 or 3 scenes from the book, which are your favorites?
I think 2 scenes come to my mind which I really enjoyed writing. The first one was the prologue of the first book, Vasco da Gama meeting Christopher Columbus.
Very interesting one.
Yeah, so like when they are told that...
and who was the young explorer? I lost his name. Who was the young explorer? Antonio.
Yes. And so at the tavern, the bartender tells them that Vasco da Gama accomplished something that you guys were planning to do, but were not able to do it. So Vasco da Gama sailed to India while Columbus went to the US. And so that scene is something I really enjoyed.
He missed a turn.
Yeah, he missed a turn. So all it takes is you miss a turn and then you change the civilization. So that is one scene I really enjoyed writing. The other one is from the second book when, as I mentioned, Rohan is this guy who has these emotional outbursts or, he has these flashbacks. So in Kathmandu in Nepal, he's dreaming. When he's sleeping, he's dreaming about a conversation that he's having with his mother, and she asks him to come back home. And then he hears a gunshot, and her mother shouts his father's name. So he fears that his father has been shot. And then he falls down from his bed and then realizes that he was dreaming, but there is indeed a gunshot that has appeared in the neighboring room. Right? He hears a gunshot from the neighboring room. And so you have to read the book to find out what actually happened.
Who gets killed in that particular adjacent room? If you ask me, mine will be the first scene, the one immediately after that. There's this Kavach, when Columbus is asking what this little pendant in your neck is doing, and it's a kavach. It's not something that, as you see, is very normal. The mythological part is something that I really very well connected with the book, Srini. I hope all readers have got something or the other. If somebody likes a CIA thriller, there is something for them. Somebody likes geopolitics, there's somebody for them, as exactly like Srini told. And for me, what I personally connected with is the fact that Srini was able to link Garuda to write a very fascinating, interesting series of books. The second one is out now. We will hope for the third one to come forward. What's your one core message for people to come forward and pick up the book?
As I mentioned, this book is unique because it combines different elements. You've got mythology, you've got mystery, murder mysteries. So those of you who are big fans of the likes of Agatha Christie or Arthur Conan Doyle's novels, there's a lot of that in this. You also have adventure. You also have geopolitics. But at its core, what differentiates this novel is you've got a lot of protagonists who suffer defeat repeatedly. Right? They face unexpected situations, and they basically lose. They basically are defeated. But the way they pick themselves up after every defeat, how they rebound, the resilience is what sets this particular series, in my opinion, apart. Also, we've got about 10 or 12 core characters across this series. And I can say that you will at least connect to 2 or 3 out of these 10 or 12 characters. Everyone and anyone who picks up this book, they would relate to at least 2 or 3 of these characters.
Very interesting. So I think that's it for today. We've had a fantastic conversation with Mr. Srinivasan Gopalan, the author of The Legend of Garuda. The Lost Elixir is the second in the series that he's published. We here from the studio will request all the readers out there to go pick up the book. Srini, wish you all the best. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Atish. Thank you very much.